We also have Justin Wolfers, a professor of economics and public policy, joining us from Michigan. Welcome, gentlemen. What a day to be talking about this. I mean, we're possibly on the cusp of seeing record-breaking government shutdown, something we haven't seen in U.S. history. And Stephen, I want to start off with you, because as Kevin says, it's a win in some ways. But again, the big challenge for President Trump is going to be healthcare. And that's a headache that is going to come very quickly. Give me a sense of how he's going to tackle this and the messaging we've heard thus far, whether he's already allayed fears of what's to come.
As the Democrats pick through the ashes of this climb down, a lot of them are starting to argue that the president now is on the hook with the rest of the Republican Party for this healthcare issue, and it's one they're going to push very aggressively heading into the midterm elections next year. The immediate question is what to do about these Obamacare insurance policy holders who are getting massive policy premium hikes right now, and they're having to decide whether to keep those premiums, keep those insurance policies that they can't really afford, or give up healthcare altogether. Nothing that the White House has come up with so far seems to address that issue. In fact, if you look across the span of President Trump's two White House terms, it's a story of repeated promises of great, beautiful, affordable healthcare, which never materialize. And so far, the ideas that the president has thrown around about how to address this Obamacare issue really fit into that template. And it's going to be a big political problem for Republicans.
Yeah, and I just want to play how Trump has responded to this anxiety that people are feeling. Take a listen.
And why are people saying they're anxious about the economy? Why are they saying that?
I don't know that they are saying it. I think polls are fake. We have the greatest economy we've ever had. We will have over $20 trillion come into our economy, and it's largely because of my election, but it's also largely because of tariffs.
Well, Justin, do you think that the president has a plan to deal with this, particularly in regard to these healthcare subsidies? I mean, has he miscalculated just how important these healthcare subsidies are to so many Americans?
Look, I just want to start on that clip. Literally every single word the president said was wrong. We don't have the greatest economy ever. We have enormous anxiety among voters. The cost of living is rising, and people are understandably upset. I just want to be crystal clear. There's not a word coming out of the man's mouth that is correct. Your important question is healthcare is a very different market. It's very different for a range of reasons. One, we're talking literally about people's well-being at a very fundamental and human level. And secondly, that this is not the sort of thing like the market for apples and oranges where you can just let it rip and the market will take care of it. Markets don't deliver healthcare or health insurance in useful ways, which is why every government around the world gets involved. President Trump has promised us a healthcare plan in 2 weeks now for 10 years in a row. He simply failed to take the idea seriously. And the problem is it's a very serious issue for Americans, and they're noticing.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good point. And also numbers tell a very different story in terms of the state of the economy, Justin. And I want you to give me a sense here, because I'm sure you've crunched some of the numbers. I've been looking at just how much of a consequence this government shutdown has been, and the impact per week ranges between $7 and $15 billion in terms of impact because of the government shutdown. Take me through what this means. Once we step out of this and we're trying to get the economy back on track and get workers back to work and looking at back pay.
Yeah, so one of the most difficult problems in all of economics is figuring out what's big and what's small, because any number, whether it's millions, billions or trillions, sounds really big and sounds like it's a big deal. It turns out the shutdown is measured in billions, which for an economy as large as America is not actually that big. So I'm not here to ring the alarm bell and say that the shutdown destroyed America's economy at all. It is mere billions of dollars. It's waste. It's painful waste. It's pointless waste. And the idea that we, for instance, threatened people on food stamps, otherwise known as SNAP, with hunger if the Democrats didn't roll over is, at a very personal level, disgusting. But in terms of macroeconomics, it's not a big deal. But if you want to talk about macroeconomics, then you start thinking about trillions of dollars. And it's quite possible that what the president's doing with tariffs is far more destructive. What the president's doing with uncertainty, where no business knows where the rules are and what they're going to be tomorrow, that's much, much more damaging than the shutdown, which I think is just a symptom of government dysfunction.
Yeah, and it's a really good point. From a macro perspective, perhaps not that impactful, but, so many millions of Americans have been caught in the crossfire of this. Stephen, I want you to come in here, and we're seeing some division in MAGA, notably prior loyalist Marjorie Taylor Greene, who has now split with Trump on a number of issues. I want you to take a listen to what she told CNN's Caitlin Collins and then what Trump had to say about it.
When the president says there's virtually no inflation and that grocery prices are going down, do you agree with him on that?
No, I go to the grocery store myself. Grocery prices remain high. Energy prices are high.
Marjorie Taylor Greene, who is a big ally of yours, said that she would rather see you focused on nonstop domestic policy meetings here at the White House instead of nonstop foreign policy meetings. What's your response to her saying that, and also saying that grocery prices are up and not down, as you've said?
Yeah, so I don't know what happened to Marjorie. She's a nice woman, but I don't know what happened. She's lost her way, I think.
All right, so Marjorie Taylor Greene then responding to that, telling CNN in a statement, I haven't lost my way. I'm 100% American first and only. When you hear all of this, what do you see playing out here, Stephen?
Well, first of all, it's a really interesting political thing because Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of the president's most vociferous reporters, a very controversial figure. Yet it appears that she's far more in touch with the insecurity that many Americans are facing in terms of healthcare costs, grocery costs, and everything else than the president is. She is obviously living in the real world where these issues are something everyone talks about every day. The president is pursuing this presidency that seems increasingly fantastical in many ways, building boardrooms, renovating bathrooms, threatening to invade Nigeria after he saw something on a Fox News report. All of these scattershot issues. There's no more dangerous position for a politician to be in when they lose touch with the pain that voters are feeling. That's especially the case with the presidency, because even under presidents who are more in touch with Americans, it's a very gilded cage. So this, I think, is something that's going to be a real problem for Republicans as we head into the midterm elections. Trump is a billionaire. He has a cabinet of millionaires and billionaires. And it seems for all his attempts to cut the price of drugs and to talk about how great the American economy is doing, he just isn't getting the information for whatever reason that many Americans are getting, and that's the way they're processing their situation. And you can see that in polls, and you saw it reflected in last week's off-year elections in the United States.
Yeah, it's an important point you make. And Justin, I want you to give me sort of an understanding of whether you think President Trump and the Trump administration is sort of losing touch with what the American experience is, because, they keep saying, well, inflation is not that bad and, prices have gone down, and the numbers and the data say something completely different. I mean, ADP numbers came out for the week of October 25th, showing that job creation was down more than 11,000 on average per week. And it's showing some weakness in the labor market. So the data, you cannot dispute the data that we're seeing here.
Yeah, so the problem isn't losing touch with the American people. It's literally losing touch with reality. The claim that prices are falling at the drugstore, at the grocery store, in our everyday lives is just on its face, flat out false. You and I can see it. I can point you to any number of data collections that show it. I could point you to any number of stores whose annual reports suggest that their prices are continuing to rise. This is literally undisputable. The president in an earlier clip said the economy is booming because I brought in $20 trillion worth of investment. That is quite literally a number that he made up out of whole cloth. I would challenge your viewers, go to the White House website, see if you can find out where he made this up. It is implausible, it's impossible, it's not true, and it's made made up, and this utter detachment from reality, which I think sort of began with the 2020 election, but now has become an increasing part of their economic policy. If you can't see the reality and the facts in front of you, you can't design the right policy to correct the real problems that exist.
All right, Stephen, very quickly, tomorrow the vote goes to the House. I mean, it's very likely we'll see the end of this shutdown. And I'm just wondering how the Democrats are sort of positioning themselves for what's to come.
Well, the House Democrats, they're all against this deal that was struck by the 8 moderate Democrats in the Senate. But what they're going to do is try to spin this to their advantage. They're going to say, look, see, now the problem is healthcare. Republicans don't get it. The problem is rising prices. President Trump isn't going to do anything about it. I'm reminded from Justin's comments about something the president said during his first term. He said that people, his supporters, don't believe what you're seeing and reading on TV. That's not what's happening. This denial of reality is something that is embedded in his administration, and I think it's going to continue. You would think that gives the Democrats, to your question, a big political opening.
All right, Stephen Collinson, Justin Wolfers, great to have you with us. Thank you so much.